I convinced my neighbor to decorate for Halloween. He used his family. The man across the street won our neighborhood Halloween contest last year. He used his family to do it. My street has this thing about holidays. It's not normal. By the 4th of July, every lawn is a minefield of little American flags. At Christmas, the whole block glows so bright, you could probably see it from the space station. It's a sickness, this perfect suburban pageantry. A competition with no prize. And then there was Halloween, our holy grail. People started planning in August. Fog machines, animatronics, whole haunted house setups on their front lawns. It was a spectacle. Every house participated. Every house but one. The one directly across from my bedroom window. It was a gray, 2-story box that seemed to suck the color out of the world around it. No lights, no wreath, no welcome mat, nothing. We knew a family lived there, a man, a woman, and a little girl. We just never really saw them. The neighborhood association, full of bored housewives with too much time and money, would occasionally send someone over for a wellness check. That was code for why the hell aren't you putting up inflatable ghosts like the rest of us? It was always the man who answered. Casimir. I saw him up close once when my dad tried bringing them a welcome basket years ago. The screen door opened a crack and the smell hit you first. Stale cigarette smoke and something else, something sour, like cheap whiskey sweating through his pores. His eyes were small and dark, sunk deep into a puffy face. He took the basket without a word and shut the door. We heard the deadbolt slide home. After a few years of that, everyone just gave up. They were the neighborhood ghosts, the dark spot on our perfect picture postcard. You catch glimpses, that's it. His wife, Sophia, sometimes sat on the porch swing, smoking. She was thin, with the kind of bone-deep exhaustion you see in old photographs from war times. Her hands were always trembling, and their daughter, Aniela, maybe 6 or 7. Curly brown hair that was always a little messy. She never played in the yard, just sat on the steps near her mother, clutching a worn-out teddy bear. She had these huge, dark eyes that didn't seem to see anything, just blink. If you got too close, Sophia would snatch her up and disappear inside before you could even say hello. So we left them alone. It was easier. Until last year, the city announced a county-wide decorating contest. Best spirit block, $1,000 prize and a plaque. Suddenly, our unspoken competition had a name and a goal. The pressure was insane. Every house had to be perfect. Every single one. And my stupid teenage brain decided I was going to be the hero. I was going to be the one to bring the ghost house into the fold. I knew Casimir's routine. Every morning, 7 a.m. Sharp, his rusted-out Ford pickup would roar to life and peel down the street. That was when Zofia and Aniela would sometimes come out for air, like 2 pale flowers that could only bloom in his absence. I watched from my window for 3 days. Nothing. I was about to give up. On the 4th day, there they were. Zofia on the swing, a plume of smoke curling around her head. Aniela on the bottom step, running a small rock over the concrete. Back and forth, back and forth. My heart was pounding. This was it. I pulled on my sneakers, took a deep breath, and walked across the street. The moment my foot hit their cracked driveway, Zofia saw me. Her whole body went rigid. She crushed her cigarette out on the porch railing and hissed Aniela's name. "Wait," I called out, my voice sounding way too loud in the quiet morning. "Please, I just want to talk for a second." She hesitated. Her eyes darted from me to her front door, then back again, like she was calculating an escape route. She ran a hand through her thin hair, a quick, jerky motion. "What do you want?" she whispered. Her voice was like dry leaves skittering across pavement. "I know this is weird," I started, trying to sound friendly and not at all like a crazy person. "But the neighborhood, we're in this big competition for Halloween. We need every house to participate to win. I was just hoping." "No," she cut me off. "We don't do that." "Okay, I get it. I'm sorry to bother you." I turned to leave, my face burning with embarrassment. I felt like such an idiot. Of course they wouldn't. I was halfway back to the street when I heard her voice again, just barely. "Wait." I turned. She was standing there, clutching her own arms. Her eyes were fixed on me, and for the first time, I saw something in them other than fear. It was a desperate, drowning kind of hope. "Maybe," she said, her voice so low I could barely hear it. I can ask him." As she said it, her fingers tightened on her arm, right over a faded yellow and purple bruise I hadn't noticed before. She gave a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of her head, even as she was nodding. My young, dumb ass didn't see the warning. I saw a breakthrough. Really, that would be amazing. "Thank you." She just stared at me, her face a mask of something I couldn't read. Then she grabbed Aniela's hand and pulled her inside. The door clicked shut. I practically floated home. I told my mom, who just sighed and said, "Don't get your hopes up." But I did. I had done it. I had connected with them. That night, a storm rolled in. The kind that shakes the whole house. I was woken up by a crack of thunder so loud it vibrated in my teeth. I sat up in bed, my heart racing, and looked out my window. Through the sheets of rain and the swaying trees, I saw their living room light was on. The blinds were open just enough. I saw two shapes moving inside, distorted by the glass and the rain. One was huge, Casimir. The other was smaller, Zofia. He was waving his arms, a frantic, violent dance. She was backed against a wall. Lightning flashed, turning the scene into a series of silent, terrifying snapshots. Flash, his arm is raised. Flash, her shape is on the floor. Flash, his shadow looms over her, an arm rising and falling again and again. A strangled sound escaped my throat. I couldn't breathe. Then, a third tiny shape. Aniela. A little ghost in a nightgown. She appeared in the doorway for a second, then vanished. The big shape on the floor stood up, impossibly fast, and lunged in the direction she had gone. Another crash of thunder shook the world, and in that same instant all the lights on the street went out. Every jack-o'-lantern, every purple spotlight, every inflatable ghoul went dead, plunging our perfect, festive neighborhood into absolute darkness. I dove back under my covers, shaking. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to erase what I saw. I told myself it was the storm. The shadows playing tricks. My memory of the night felt like a bad dream. Then I looked out the window, and I saw him, Casimir. He was on his front lawn, whistling, hanging a string of orange lights from the gutters of his porch. I blinked. It couldn't be real. I stumbled out onto my own porch, my feet bare on the cold concrete. He saw me and gave me a huge, friendly wave. "Mornin', neighbor," he boomed, a wide, toothy smile splitting his face. I just stared, dumbfounded, and managed a weak wave back. He chuckled and went back inside. I ran to get my mom, pulling her to the front door. "See? I told you I did it." She looked as shocked as I felt. We stood there, watching, as the front door opened again. He came out carrying something. At first, I thought it was one of those hyper-realistic, expensive decorations you see in catalogs. A life-sized mannequin of a woman with a bloody, mangled head. He carefully sat it down on the porch swing, Zofia's swing. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out one of her long, thin cigarettes, and wedged it between the mannequin's fingers. My mom made a choked sound. "Oh my God. That's in poor taste." But he wasn't done. He went back inside. The air grew thick and heavy. A minute later, he came back out. He was carrying something much smaller, a child-sized figure. It had messy, curly brown hair, matted with something dark and wet. Its face was a horror of ruined flesh, the eyes gone. In its hand, he had placed a little teddy bear with its button eyes ripped out. He set it on the porch steps right next to the swing, arranging it so it looked like it was looking up at the woman. He stepped back, admiring his work. Then he turned to face the street. He looked directly at my house. At me. He threw his arms wide, a gesture of pure, triumphant madness. There he screamed, his voice raw and cracking. "Are you happy now? You wanted us to participate. Well, Here we are, happy fucking Halloween silence. The entire street was frozen. A few neighbors had come out onto their porches, drawn by the shouting. We all just stood there, paralyzed. He pulled a flask from his jacket, tilted his head back, and drank deeply. Then he tossed the empty flask onto the lawn. His hand went back into his jacket and came out with a revolver. In one smooth motion, he stuck the barrel in his mouth. I can still hear the sound. Not just the gunshot, which was deafening, but the wet, final crack that followed it. I can still see the spray of red against the gray siding of the house. My mom screamed and shoved me back inside, slamming the door. The world became a blur of sirens. The orange and purple glow of Halloween was replaced by the flashing red and blue of police cars. The contest judges we were all waiting for turned out to be detectives in cheap suits, their faces grim as they walked among our plastic skeletons and fake graveyards. They asked me questions later. I told them what I saw. I told them about my conversation with Zofia. The hope in her eyes that I now know was a silent, desperate plea. Was this my fault? I just wanted to win a stupid contest. I just wanted our street to be perfect. I just wanted to help.